Well, it is hard to believe, but we are here for episode 7 of The Last of Us Season 2, the finale. And today we're going to have a spoiler discussion, talk about the final episode, the end of the season overall, and what we think is coming next. So grab a snack or a drink and stick around because we got a great show for you. Let's get started. So episode 7 starts off with Dina and Jesse returning to the theater. Dina has been shot in the leg with an arrow, and it's up to Jesse to try to get this arrow out now. She's basically bleeding out. He's got to get this out of her before she dies. And, Dina is obviously freaking out because she's pregnant. Jesse does not know that yet. He's trying to keep her calm. She's like, I cannot die. He even offers her some alcohol, and she's like refusing. She's like, no. And he's just like, what the hell? That's kind of weird. I've never seen Dina turn down alcohol. But he's like, all right, whatever. Bite down because this is going to hurt like a mother. And pours alcohol on it, pushes the arrow through, gets it out. She eventually goes and lays down in the dressing room. And then Ellie shortly returns after that from her little excursion with Nora. Now, Ellie is just in a daze from what she just experienced. Basically just walks right past Jesse and just like, where's Dina? Like, get out of my way, where's Dina? He's like, what the hell happened to you? You're not even going to talk to me? Like, she's in the dressing room, she's resting. She just brushes right past him, goes right to Dina. Ellie goes in there, checks on Dina. She obviously is passed out from her experience with the arrow. They kind of have this moment where Ellie sits down with her, shares just what happened with Nora. She has her doubts if she did the right thing. Obviously, the morality of the matter has come up. And this is where Ellie's story kind of starts to change too, because up until this point, everyone she's killed along the way, basically, I don't want to say it was justified, but a lot of those were bad people. And now she's really struggling with the moral aspects of what she's doing at this point of her life in the story. And Ellie is turning a page, and this cycle of violence is just continuing with each one of these interactions. And that's what's so interesting about Season 2. And also what's also so draining about Season 2, I believe, within the game and the show. Either way, Dina and Ellie sit down and they have this moment, and she's basically washing Ellie's back and cleaning off her wounds and stuff like that. And Ellie's sitting there and turns around and eventually tells her what happened with Joel and everything that Nora told her. And Dina's basically just like, so what the hell are we doing here? Like, why are we here if that's the case with the hospital and all of that? She's like, we need to go home. So at this point, Ellie and Dina basically decided that, this is basically a Pyrrhic victory, a victory gained at too great of a cost, and it's like, it's time to pack this show up and head back home and take care of ourselves. Which brings us to Tommy, because that's basically next on the list. It is now up to Ellie and Jesse to go after Tommy, and they need to rescue him and then get the hell out of Seattle, basically, at this point. So they head out to find Tommy. They're making their way through Seattle. And of course the conversation comes up between Jesse and Ellie about, obviously Dina. He knows what's going on between them. Something is different. He can tell immediately. And Ellie is continuing to hide stuff from him. He's trying to pull it out of her, and he's like, listen, if you're not going to talk to me, I'm not going to talk to you. She's like, because Ellie's trying to figure out how he got to the theater, like how he found him. And eventually he does tell her, and he's like, it took 2 days with a lot of close encounters, but we did find it. And she's like, okay, wow, well, I really appreciate it. And, I really value the fact that you came after us. I appreciate that. And all that being said, he turns around, he's like, what the hell's going on with you and Dina? He's like, you're not going to be honest with me? He's like, when I was taking that arrow out of her, she refused alcohol and then said she couldn't die. So what is really going on, Ellie? I mean, she probably even tells you things she doesn't tell me. And Ellie's just like, like being pregnant is like the example he uses. And she's like, ah, shit. I mean, she was going to tell you. And then she like catches herself. She's like, wait, you were just guessing. Oh, shit. And he's like, what the fuck? And then at this point, he's just like, okay, I'm over all this revenge and this lust for chasing after Abby and getting payback and all this stuff. He's like, now that I'm going to be a dad, I just want to get my kid, get Tommy, and get the hell out of here and get back to Jackson. Then we kind of switch tones a little bit. It goes to Isaac, and he's talking to one of his leaders in his army, and they're basically plotting out and mapping out their attack on the Scars, take out the Scars encampment, the village. He's basically asking this other soldier, I don't know her name, I can't remember what her name was, but anyways, he's like, is there any update on Abby? She's still missing. And the girl's like, yeah, Abby's missing, Owen's missing, Mel's missing. Her whole crew basically has disappeared on the night that they're going to make this attack on the Scars. And he's basically explaining to her that, you know, because she's struggling to understand, like, what the hell's the big deal with Abby? Like, we have an entire army here, and you're sitting here acting like it's end-all, be-all where Abby's at. And he's like, listen, when I step down, or if I die tonight, you know, whatever may happen, Abby is supposed to be the one that steps up and takes over this whole thing. Who's going to lead us if it's not Abby? And it kind of ends on that note, and the girl's just like, all right, well, Abby's kind of dicking off and messing around, so maybe she's not the right one. So after that, Ellie and Jesse continue to make their way towards Tommy. They start hearing, they go off into a building where Jesse had been hiding out. His stuff's there, so they kind of go into this building, chill out for a second. And they basically have this little heart-to-heart moment where they sit down, and Jesse's basically telling Ellie the story about how he met this girl. They came into town. I can't remember where they were from, Alberta or something. I don't know. She was selling paintings. And he basically had a thing with this girl for a couple of weeks and kind of was starting to fall in love with her. And she was wanting him to come back to wherever she was from and start a life with her. And he's like, you know, I grew up in Jackson. These people took me in. These are my people. And I put them first, and I'm going to stay here. And he's basically trying to prove a point to Ellie in this moment. Like, me and you are different in the sense where I grew up being taught to put other people first before myself. And Ellie's just like, okay, like, I see where you're going with this story. And all of a sudden, as they're about to start to get into that conversation, the radio goes off, and it's basically a sniper is making an attack, and the WLF is calling for backup. And they're immediately like, shit, it's Tommy. We got to go. Jesse's like, let's head to high ground and scope out the area and try to find Tommy. Figure out where the shots are coming from and locate him. So go to the top of this building. They're kind of overlooking Seattle. And they're kind of looking around. They hear the gunshots, and Ellie has her binoculars, and she looks over and she sees the Ferris wheel, drifts down a little bit, and sees the whale. She's like, oh shit. Will and well. Oh, I forgot to mention that earlier. Will and well is what Nora told Ellie before she killed her. And she told Dina that in the dressing room when she was cleaning her off. I forgot to mention that earlier, but that's kind of a big note because this is what leads Ellie to discovering it's the aquarium where she's at. I've been to that aquarium, by the way. It's pretty cool. It's got all local wildlife. Everything in the aquarium, in the Seattle aquarium, is actually in our waters out here. And I got to see them feed a Pacific octopus, which was absolutely incredible. One of the coolest things. And they have this little thing where the otters have these little holes they can stick their hands through, and you can massage their little hands. Anyways, enough about the Seattle aquarium. I've been on the Ferris wheel, too. I went with my wife a few years ago. Anyways, yeah. Ellie is just like, And this changes everything, because almost as soon as she's about to pack it up and head back, she puts it together and finds out where Abby's at. And Jesse's like, okay, what are you doing over here? Like, what just happened? And Ellie's like, the aquarium, that's where Abby's at. And Jesse's like, we got to get Tommy, though. They get into this whole argument about, you think you're a better person than me because you're doing it this way and this and that, but in the end, we're both the same people. And Ellie's basically like, you talk about community, but my whole community was brutally murdered in front of me as I was forced to watch. Obviously talking about Joel. And she's basically like, if that would have happened to you, you would be out here doing the same damn thing, and you can't tell me otherwise. Jesse kind of just looks her in the eyes and says, well, good luck. I hope you make it. And walks off his separate way. And then Ellie begins her journey to the aquarium. Now, as Ellie starts to make her way to the aquarium, she obviously needs a boat. So she sees a boat down on a dock. And as soon as she starts to kind of make her way to the dock, there's there's a couple soldiers down there waiting. And she's literally about to take them out. And all of a sudden, these headlights come up all over the ocean in front of her. And all these military boats start rolling in. And it's Isaac and his whole crew. And they're coming to the shore or the dock to pick up their crew so they can go make the attack on the Scars. They all hop in the boat, take off. And then Ellie proceeds to go down and take this little trolley motorboat and get in the ocean and just take off into the Pacific Ocean. And of course, there's like these massive waves and stuff like that. There is not waves like that right next to the pier down on the waterfront, or at least I haven't seen them, maybe sometimes. But anyways, it goes into this like CGI boat scene, and this huge wave, it's like a 30-foot wave in front of her. She turns right into it, takes her out, she gets washed up on the beach, and eventually washed ashore, and she's, pulling herself out of the water, and then walks up, and basically the Scar is standing on the side of the... So, like I was saying, the Scar basically does this little noise, and the little kid calls other Scars to come down to the beach, and they basically drag Ellie into the woods, and they're about to rip her apart, just like she saw the captain, WLF officer in the previous episode. And she's like screaming, they're putting her up on the noose. The lady's coming over here with this giant machete type thing. And it's basically as soon as she's about to take Ellie out, they hear these sirens going off in the village. And it's Isaac and the rest of his crew rolling in to destroy the Scars village. The alarm goes off. The leader's basically like, leave her. Let's get out of here. Ellie narrowly escapes, but you start to realize that this journey she's on to find Abby is basically trying to kill her over and over again. And at what point is this worth it? I mean, that's what this whole story is really about. But either way, she hops back in the boat and the journey's back on. She starts making her way to the aquarium, sees the window at the top of the aquarium. There's like a little crate on the bottom. She's like, there's my way in. Climbs up on the roof, gets into the aquarium, and this is where she finds Mel and Owen. Once again, the cycle continues because Ellie approaches them, and they're talking about Abby as she walks up. She's got him at gunpoint. You can see the wheels are turning with Ellie and Owen. And Ellie's like, you see that map right there? I'm going to have one of you point to the map. And then if the other person doesn't point to the same spot, I'm going to kill you both. You got 5 seconds. Figure it out. They're both kind of scrambling, looking at each other. And eventually Owen's like, you know what? All right, I'll do it. I'll do it. She's like, slowly. Okay, slowly. He's kind of turning around. And he knew he was going to try something. Tries to grab the gun underneath the table. And as soon as he's about to fire, Ellie shoots him first. And Mel's basically standing right behind him. Bullet goes through Owen and into Mel's neck. Now, Mel is also pregnant. So as soon as she's shot, she's basically like asking Ellie, like, do you have a knife? And Ellie's like, yes. And she's like, you got to cut it out. You got to cut it out. And she's basically trying to tell her where to do the incision. Make sure you cut the umbilical cord. I mean, Ellie's just like, literally just shot both of them. And now Mel's trying to get her to save this baby. And it is a heartbreaking scene. And Ellie doesn't have the strength or the skill to do it. And Mel basically sits there dying, asking, you know, did you get it out? How's it going? You're doing great. Like, keep going. And it's just heartbreaking. And the cycle continues of the violence, and Ellie's just falling apart. Mentally, she doesn't know what to do anymore. She's laying there, crying in disbelief, heartbroken, and just lost as a person on this journey now. Like, I think she's really starting to lose sight of what are we even really fighting for. And eventually, Tommy and Jesse come to the aquarium. They decide to come back for her. They get her out of there and bring her back to the theater. Now that we're back at the theater, this is where everything goes down and where season 2 is going to end. Basically, it starts off with Tommy talking to Jesse, and they're kind of mapping out, you know, how they're going to get home, basically. Ellie comes and sits down. She's still kind of in a daze and a funk from everything that's transpired over the last few days. Tommy obviously sees, like, okay, these two need to hash out some things. So he's like, I'm gonna step aside for a second, go pack the bag and get ready to go. Come get me when you're ready, basically. Yeah, they just kind of have a moment. Ellie thanks him for coming back. And it's basically as soon as things start to get better between those two, they hear some commotion and some noise coming through from the lobby. They head out there. Abby has entered the theater, tracked them down, and is pissed. She shot Tommy. She's got him at gunpoint. Ellie and Jesse bust through the door. Abby takes out Jesse immediately. And Ellie jumps behind, like, a bookcase, and she's just, like, looking at Jesse's dead body on the ground, and it's just... At this point, everything's been taken from her. And now Jessie, too. She pops up. She's like, don't shoot. Don't shoot. Like, I'm the one you want. I'm the reason that Joel killed your father and, you know, got me out of there, killed off the rest of the Fireflies. I'm the one you want. Let Tommy go. Take me. And Abby basically looks at her and she's like, I let you go and you ruined it. You killed my friends. And Ellie's like, I really didn't want to hurt them. You know, obviously she doesn't have time to explain what really happened. But man, she points the gun at her. You hear a gunshot, and the season ends. And I knew they were going to leave with this cliffhanger. I knew it. Just with how they're pacing out the story, which means a lot of season 2 is going to be Abby. Which might be a good or bad thing. I'm not really sure yet. But it basically, and it does end with it going back to Seattle day 1. Shows Abby waking up from a dream. Isaac's called her down to his office to talk to her. She basically walks out there at the Seahawks Stadium. She's kind of overlooking this whole military base they have there. This like fortress they've made. Yeah, basically just ends with Seattle day 1. And that's where we're going to start season 3 with Abby and her journey. And them trying to get us to like Abby, even though none of us ever will. But overall, was season 2 better than season 1? No, not in my opinion. But I don't like the story of part 2 as much as part 1. And I don't think that'll ever change. And it's one of the hardest experiences to go back and play or watch, in my opinion, because of the death of Joel. And I really feel like it overshadows and overpowers the amazing gameplay in the rest of part 2. because as great as the gameplay is and all of that stuff, I just hate going through the depressing, decaying state of part 2. I feel like there's so much more life in part 1. In part 2, I don't know. I don't think my feelings have changed too much on it. I think they'll always kind of be this way. Some people think it's like one of the greatest stories of all time, and I think it is impressive what they did with it. I am curious to see how they end season 3, but you have to admit the quality of this show is really good. I can sit here and nitpick it all I want, but I'm completely intrigued with most episodes. They're really fun to watch. They keep my interest the entire time for the most part, which is rare nowadays. I mean, how many shows do you really sit down and you're not on your phone or your laptop or your tablet or doing something else while you watch that show? Because with this one, I don't do anything else. Like, I sit down and I digest it. And for these reviews, I actually watch it a second time. And that's when I take my notes and stuff like that. First time I just watch it and take it in, and then I want to watch it again, take down all the notes, the details, and stuff like that. But either way, it's been a fun journey. I've had fun doing this. For the people that have been following along and joining this little review series of part 2, I really appreciate it. I know I'm not a TV show or movie channel, but it is Last of Us related, which is one of my favorite games of all time. So I was going to do it regardless, but I am looking forward to doing something different and new. Stay tuned for that. I plan on doing a little Who Remembers video on the first Doom game next. So stick around for that. I've got a fun little story because I was there when it came out, and I was 6 years old when I first experienced it, and can't wait to share it with you guys. So stick around for that one. If you want to give this video a like, that'd be awesome. Comment down below your thoughts on the season. I'd love to hear them. And hopefully I'll see you next time. Stay blessed, my friends.